Hey YouTubians, it's Tony here from We Try Anything, channel likes try anything, so you don't have to. Today's video is one of them long-term videos I like to put out more or less every month, in terms of I get a watch out of my watch collection, I dust it off and then pop it on my wrist and say what it's like to wear over an extended period of time. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about what it's like to wear the CASIO AE-1500WH over what will be 28 days in February. Now what I'll do is I've broken it down on my little notes here in terms of like just sections, so it'll be comfort and design and functions and what it's like overall. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. So first of all, let's talk about what it's like to wear on the wrist. So comfort wise, just referring to my notes, a little bit worried about wearing it. I was apprehensive in wearing this watch. Now the month before I wore the CASIO DW291H, did set me up for wearing this sort of size watch, and as I say, I was a little bit apprehensive, and once I put it on my wrist it took me just a little bit of time just to get used to in terms of its sizing and stuff. Now I will say I have quite a smallish wrist in terms of it's about 6.5 inches, so just bear that in mind throughout the video when I am talking about this watch. But I did feel it on the wrist, but it wasn't uncomfortable in terms of how it sat on my wrist. I mean, it was a little, how can I say, there was no perfect medium in terms of it being too loose or too tight, because the strap there, I mean, you do get quite a few holes for adjustment, but mine was on the third one like it was on the DW291H, so it wasn't too tight, but it was just tight enough for it to be okay. So I did feel the strap as well because it was quite wide, and obviously I felt the actual heft of the watch, but being a lightweight watch at 59 grams, it wasn't really an issue. The only issue I did find was obviously wearing elasticated cuffs in what would be the colder months in the UK, and especially hoodies, because I do tend to wear hoodies more so than jumpers, and I did feel either the elastication pushing against the watch or pulling against the watch, depending on if I wore a coat or anything like that. And I did have a question by a viewer in which they said, which one's more comfortable, this one, which I'm holding here, or the CASIO DW291H that I wore in January? Out of the two, this is probably a little bit more comfortable. Now, the reason being, the pushes don't stick out too much like they do on the DW291H, and it doesn't, you don't feel any form of hand inhibition, so I couldn't feel it as much, believe it or not, touching my wrist or anything. I mean, obviously, it did, depending on what you did, but it was a lot more, how can I say, it didn't intrude as much in terms of, you know, your hand movements and stuff. So this one just pips it to the post really. Now I'm showing you the sizes on screen so you can see it is quite a large watch to wear on your wrist, but if you do have a larger wrist then you may find that this will sit a lot nicer. In terms of getting used to it, it took a little while to get used to it. I'm first, you know, putting it on your wrist, but as I said, with the watch the month that I wore the month before, I was kind of used to wearing bigger watches, and it did open my eyes to wearing bigger watches. And it's the same thing what I said for that watch that I say for this watch. You do put it on of a morning, you know it's there because it is a big watch. It is something you do eventually get used to, so I didn't have any real problem with this. And if anything, as I've mentioned, I did find this a lot more comfortable to wear than the watch that I wore in January, the CASIO DW291H. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed the look of this watch. It's got that kind of G-Shock sort of rugged aspect about it, and with it being resin, you know it'll take a few knocks and bangs. But the only thing I will say is, because it's got that resin display window or crystal, it will pick up scratches. Now again, I had it under a hoodie for a month, so it didn't really see much in terms of, you know, it was protected as such. So just bear that in mind if you are thinking about it, because you do have a larger surface area which is more prone to obviously getting knocked about and stuff like that. But talking about that display, it is an absolutely stonking display in terms of legibility, layout. The font or the typeface is just the right amount of thickness without it being too overwhelming, and the layout of the information there is just so easy to read. In terms of timekeeping mode, with you've got the day of the week, the month within the year, the date within the month, the time obviously, which can be viewed in 12 and 24 hours, and also you got the seconds, and you do have a nice little animation that goes around the right hand side of the watch, which is really nice as well. It is fantastic. Now the only thing I will say in terms of the display, it does have an element of ghosting to it, and quite a bit more ghosting than I have seen on some of the watches, and that is not at extreme angles either, so just be aware of that fact. And I am showing it in a clip here how it looks in terms of ghosting, but again, you only have to turn your wrist a little bit and it's not a problem really. Now for me, I think this is great for people who have kind of deteriorating eyesight like myself, or a bit short-sighted, a bit short-sighted, need to wear glasses. Now I wear varifocals. This watch, even with my glasses off, you can read no problem at all. It's such a great watch for people who, just like myself, are getting a bit older and obviously their eyesight's just going a little. So fantastic watch just for that aspect. Pushers I found are easy to access the various functions on and the various modes and operate and stuff like that, no problem at all. And they just stick out just enough for it to not get in the way. So the functions on this watch is very easy to operate, very easy and quite intuitive as well. And if you need to know how to do it or how to operate this watch, I've done a little tutorial as well if you want to just find out a little bit more how to operate the various functions on this watch. And the other thing, it's got a cracking backlight. It really does have a nice dual amber LED backlight, which you can read the timing in all forms of kind of darkened situations. It really is, I'll be honest with you, it's such a great watch. And it is overall, I've got to say, in terms of the design and the display, it's the display that wins out on this watch. It's so big, so crisp, so easy to read. And it's also simple. There's not that much going on in terms of what this watch does. It just tells the time. Obviously it's got a few other functions which I'm going to mention in a minute, but it's just so easy to read the information off this watch. It is just a great watch for that aspect alone. Now let's talk about the features first. It's got 100 meters of water resistance, which I'm just referring to here. It's got up to, as you can see on the decals on this watch, it's got up to 10 years battery life from brand new. It's got an accuracy of plus and minus 30 seconds per month, and it's got that, obviously it's got that 12 and 24 hour military time format as well as it's got a auto date up to, or an auto calendar up to 2099. So once you set it, you can forget it. It'll take into account leap years, etc. Functions wise, it's got a lot going for it as well. 5 multi-function alarms, one of which has got a snooze option as well that you can set up, and also it's got an hourly signal which you can activate or deactivate. Now the hourly signal just means this watch will beep on the hour every hour, so that just gives you an idea when an hour is transpiring. It's got a countdown timer that will go up to, or will count down from 24 hours, and also it's got an auto repeat function, so you could set it up for if you were doing interval training, it'll just keep repeating that timer until you turn it off. And also the stopwatch on it is 24 hours, or it will count up to an elapsed time of 24 hours, and also it does feature a split time and first and second finish times as well. Again, all in that tutorial that I've done, which I've linked to in the description box below if I haven't put it here. So overall, what's my thoughts over the 28 days of wearing this very Casio AE-1500? I think it's a great looking watch. You do have to get used to its size once, if you have got like a smallish wrist like myself, and a lot of watch YouTubers do tend to have 6.5-inch wrists, which was pointed out by a viewer, I've got to admit. But I really enjoyed wearing it over that amount of time. Yes, you know it's there. Yes, it's quite a big watch, but I really did love looking at this watch, quickly getting the time, using the functions. I even used the timer on this watch to cook food and stuff, and it was no problem at all to set up. It really was a very easy to use watch. And also, as you can see, that display, it's just a winning display. The 100 meters makes it really versatile to use. I mean, you can use it in a lot of situations where you are using water, but please be aware that obviously with that bigger surface area, my theory is there's got more chance of it getting knocked. So just be aware of that fact. If you are a bit precious about your watches and you are doing something like gardening, washing the car, construction, then it might be worth taking this watch off. But again, that's up to you really. And I think personally, I think it's currently at about £30–35 on Amazon, and it is available in different colors as well, which is also another feature. And I forgot to mention, you can also get a negative displayed version, which is, I've got to admit, it's a really nice version of this watch. It's a phenomenal watch for that money. You get a lot of watch as well. You can see with the size of it and the functions as well. You get a lot of watch built in, and I think for that price point alone, it's a no-brainer really. If you can get on with the size of the watch and wearing it in a daily basis or on a daily basis and not worry about it getting knocked or anything like that. But what I will say, and I can't stress it enough, try it on first. Make sure it's the watch for you. Make sure you're happy with how it fits, how it sits on your wrist, and obviously the adjustment as well, so how confident it sits around your wrist. And if you're happy with it, then you're going to absolutely love it. If it's a bit too big for you, I can't blame you. At first As I say, I was very apprehensive about wearing it, but after wearing it over the month, I've got no problems taking this watch off, putting it back on, no problem at all. I really did get on really well with this watch. So that's my thoughts about the CASIO AE-1500 and wearing it over the 28 days that I worn it in February. It gets a massive thumbs up from me, and my god, what a display. I think you'll grow to absolutely love this watch. So I hope this video was of some use to you, and if it was, then please give it a like. It always helps the channel. If you want to see more videos from the We Try Anything channel, including the tutorial and the original review of this watch, then please click on the subscription button below. But thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.